You know what they say about the best laid plans? They're usually made by idiots who think life gives a damn about their romantic gestures. I'm standing in my kitchen at 6:30 on a Tuesday morning, holding 2 plane tickets to Bermuda, and watching my wife of 15 years tell me I can't come to her office Christmas party because her boss thinks she's single. It's just better for my career, Dave, Sarah says, not even looking up from her phone as she scrolls through what I'm sure are very important marketing emails. Richard thinks married women aren't as dedicated to the company. Richard, her boss. The guy who drives a BMW that costs more than I make in 2 years fixing pipes and unclogging toilets in this dying New England city we call home. Why? So let me get this straight, I say, setting the tickets down on our scratched kitchen table. You want me to pretend I don't exist so you can impress your boss at a Christmas party? Huh. She finally looks up, her perfectly applied makeup already in place even though it's not even 7 a.m. It's not pretending you don't exist, Dave. It's just strategic career management. Strategic career management. That's what 15 years of marriage gets you these days. I cancel the Bermuda trip right there on my phone while she watches. You're being dramatic, she says. I'm being practical. Why waste money on a romantic getaway when my wife would rather be single? Sarah rolls her eyes and grabs her designer purse, the one that cost more than most people's rent. I'll be late tonight. The party goes until midnight. After she leaves, I sit in our kitchen and look around at the life we've built. The house is small but decent, in one of those neighborhoods that used to be working class respectable before the factories closed and half the families moved away. Our daughter Emma is 17 and barely speaks to either of us anymore, too busy with her phone and her college applications to notice her parents have become strangers. I've been running my plumbing business for 12 years now, D&S Plumbing. Dave and Sarah, back when she actually cared about being part of something with me. These days she tells people at parties that she works in marketing, and if they ask about her husband, she changes the subject. The funny thing about being a plumber is that you see people at their worst moments. Broken pipes, flooded basements, toilets that won't flush. Nobody's putting on airs when their bathroom is under 3 inches of water. You learn to read people, to see past the masks they wear for the world. I should have been reading my own wife better. That afternoon, I'm under Mrs. Patterson's sink fixing a leak when my phone buzzes. Text from Emma. Mom left her tablet at home. Can you bring it to her office? I finish the job and drive across town to Sarah's marketing agency. It's one of those modern glass buildings downtown, all open spaces and exposed brick, trying too hard to look creative and innovative. The kind of place where they have meetings about having meetings and everyone drinks kombucha. Sarah's not at her desk when I arrive, so I leave the tablet with the receptionist. But as I'm walking back to my truck, curiosity gets the better of me. Sarah never forgets anything. She's the most organized person I know. Leaving her tablet behind is like me forgetting my toolbox. I sit in my truck in the parking lot and power on the tablet. I tell myself I'm just checking to make sure it's working, that there's nothing wrong with it. But really, I'm looking for answers to questions I didn't even know I was asking. The first thing I see is a text conversation that makes my blood run cold. Can't wait to see you tonight. Wear that black dress that drives me crazy. The message is from Richard, her boss, the one who thinks married women aren't dedicated enough. I scroll up. There are weeks of messages, months, pictures that make me want to throw the tablet through the windshield of his BMW. My wife, my Sarah, doing things with her boss that she hasn't done with me in years. But it's not just the sex. It's the way she talks about me. Dave's working late again. God, I can't wait to get out of this boring life. He has no ambition, just wants to fix pipes forever. I deserve better. Sometimes I pretend he doesn't exist. It's easier that way. There's a selfie of them in what looks like a hotel room. Sarah's wearing lingerie I've never seen before. The timestamp shows it was taken last Tuesday, the night she said she was working late on a campaign presentation. I sit in that parking lot for an hour, reading through months of lies. The late nights, the weekend team-building exercises, the business trips that apparently weren't all business. My hands are shaking when I finally turn off the tablet. 15 years of marriage, and I've been reduced to a convenient fiction. The boring husband who pays the mortgage while she plays house with her boss. I drive home and put the tablet back exactly where Emma left it. Then I pour myself 3 fingers of whiskey and start planning what I'm going to do about Richard's Christmas party. If Sarah wants to pretend she's single, I'm going to give her the performance of her life. The Riverside Hotel ballroom is exactly what you'd expect from a marketing agency Christmas party. Overpriced everything, pretentious decorations, and a bunch of people in expensive clothes pretending to have fun while networking aggressively. I'm wearing my best suit, the one I bought for Emma's 8th grade graduation 3 years ago, and I feel like a fraud walking through the door. But then again, everyone here is pretending to be something they're not, so maybe I fit right in. Sarah is standing near the bar with Richard, laughing at something he's saying. She's wearing the black dress he mentioned in his text, the one that drives him crazy. I've never seen it before. She must have bought it just for him. Richard is exactly what I expected. Mid-30s, perfectly styled hair. The kind of guy who probably has his shirts pressed by someone else and thinks manual labor is beneath him. He's got his hand on the small of Sarah's back, casual and possessive. I walk up to them with a smile that feels like it might crack my face. Sarah, there you are, honey. She turns around and the color drains from her face. Dave, how did you? I thought I'd surprise my beautiful wife, I say, loud enough for the people around us to hear. You look amazing in that dress. Is it new? Richard extends his hand. You must be Dave. I'm Richard Morrison, Sarah's boss. She's told me so much about you. I shake his hand, probably a little too firmly. Funny, she's never mentioned you at all. The lie hangs in the air between us. Sarah's eyes are darting around like she's looking for an escape route. I thought you had to work tonight, she says. Finished early. Lucky me, right? Now I get to meet all your work friends. I turn to Richard. Sarah tells me you think married women aren't as dedicated to their jobs. That's an interesting management philosophy. Richard's smile falters. I think there might be some miscommunication there. Oh, I don't think so. Sarah was very clear. She said you prefer your employees to be single. More availability for late nights and weekend work, right? A few people nearby have stopped their conversations to listen. Sarah grabs my arm. Dave, can I talk to you for a minute? Privately? Sure, honey, but first, I want to make a toast. I signal the bartender and grab a glass of champagne before Sarah can stop me. The room isn't completely quiet, but our little corner has definitely drawn attention. I'd like to propose a toast, I say, raising my glass. To all the married men in this room. Richard looks confused. Sarah looks terrified. Marriage is a beautiful thing, I continue. It's about trust, commitment, and honesty. It's about being there for each other through thick and thin. It's about respecting the vows you made, even when nobody's watching. I look directly at Richard. Of course, some people think marriage is just an inconvenient detail, something to hide when it's not useful anymore. Dave, stop, Sarah hisses. I'm just getting started, sweetheart. I turn back to Richard. Tell me, Richard, are you married? Yes, I am. Congratulations. I bet your wife is a lovely woman. Does she know you're here with my wife tonight? The conversation around us has completely stopped now. Richard's face is red, and Sarah looks like she wants to disappear into the floor. I think there's been a misunderstanding, Richard says. Has there? Because I have some text messages that suggest otherwise. I pull out my phone and start reading. Can't wait to see you tonight. Wear that black dress that drives me crazy. That's from you to my wife, Richard. Yesterday afternoon. Sarah makes a grab for my phone, but I'm quicker. There's more. Want to hear about the hotel room? The business trips that weren't business? You went through my private messages? Sarah's voice is shrill now. Your private messages? We're married, Sarah. We're supposed to share everything, including honesty. Richard steps forward. I think you should leave. I think you should go to hell. The champagne glass slips from my hand, or maybe I drop it on purpose, and shatters on Richard's expensive shoes. The golden liquid spreads across the floor like a small flood. Oops, I say. Looks like there's a leak. Good thing I know how to fix those. Security is already moving toward us. Richard is brushing champagne off his pants and trying to salvage what's left of his dignity. You're embarrassing yourself, Sarah says. No, sweetheart, I'm embarrassing you. There's a difference. As the security guards escort me toward the door, I turn back to the room full of shocked faces. Enjoy the party, everyone. And Richard, give my regards to your wife. Built to drive home is a blur of anger and adrenaline. I keep replaying the look on Sarah's face, the way Richard stumbled over his words, the whispers that followed me out of the room. When I get home, Emma is in the living room with her laptop. How was your night, Dad? Educational, I say. She looks up from her screen. Mom called. She said you made a scene at her work party. Did she mention why? Emma's 17, but she's not stupid. She can read the tension in this house as well as anyone. She said you've been acting paranoid lately. Paranoid, that's one word for it. I'm about to go upstairs when the front door opens. Sarah walks in, still wearing the black dress, her makeup smudged from what I assume was crying in the car. We need to talk, she says. Do we? Because according to your text messages, talking to me is pretty low on your priority list. Emma closes her laptop. I'm going upstairs. Stay, Sarah says. Your father is having some kind of breakdown, and I want you to see what we're dealing with. What we're dealing with? I laugh, and it sounds bitter even to me. We're dealing with the fact that my wife has been screwing her boss for months and lying to my face about it. Emma's eyes go wide. Dad, don't dad me. Ask your mother. Ask her about Richard and the hotel rooms and the business trips. Ask her about the text messages where she talks about how boring her husband is and how she can't wait to get out of this life. Sarah's face hardens. You had no right to go through my private communications. Private communications? You're my wife. Not for much longer, she says. The words hit me like a physical blow. Emma makes a small sound, like she's been punched in the stomach. What's that supposed to mean? I ask. It means I'm done pretending this marriage works. I'm done pretending I'm happy living in this house, in this neighborhood, with someone who has no ambition beyond fixing other people's problems. So you decided to fix your problem by sleeping with your boss. Richard understands me. He sees my potential. He believes in my career. Richard is married, Sarah. He's not leaving his wife for you. Something flickers across her face. Doubt, maybe, or fear. But she recovers quickly. You don't know anything about Richard and me. I know he's been feeding you lines about your potential while he gets what he wants from you. And I know you've been stupid enough to believe him. Emma stands up. I can't listen to this anymore. She runs upstairs, and I hear her bedroom door slam. Sarah and I stand in our living room, 15 years of marriage crumbling around us like a house with bad plumbing. I want you to move out, Sarah says. This is my house too. Then I'll move out. Emma can come with me. Like hell she will. We'll see about that. Sarah goes upstairs, and I hear her moving around in our bedroom, opening drawers and closets. I sit on the couch and stare at the wall, trying to process what just happened. My marriage is over. My wife is leaving me for her boss. My daughter just watched her family explode in real time. And somewhere in the back of my mind, a small voice is saying, this is just the beginning. The wedding invitation arrives on a Thursday morning, 2 weeks after Sarah moved out. I'm sitting at my kitchen table, drinking coffee that tastes like regret, and reading through a stack of bills that Sarah used to handle. The envelope is cream-colored, expensive paper, the kind that screams money and good breeding. Mr. and Mrs. Richard Morrison request the pleasure of your company at the wedding of their daughter Catherine. I read it twice before it sinks in. Richard Morrison, Sarah's Richard, the man she's been sleeping with, the one who understands her potential, is not only married, he's got a daughter getting married. And Sarah isn't the bride. I laugh out loud in my empty kitchen. It's not a happy sound. My phone buzzes. Text from Emma. Mom says you're not paying her car insurance anymore. Is that true? I text back. Your mother made her choice. She can figure out her own expenses now. And that's not fair. You're punishing me for her mistakes. She's right, but I'm past caring about fair. Fair would have been Sarah talking to me about our problems, instead of spreading her legs for her boss. Fair would have been honesty, instead of months of lies. I drive across town to the apartment complex where Sarah is staying. It's one of those modern places, with a fitness center and a pool. The kind of temporary luxury that costs twice what our mortgage payment used to be. Sarah answers the door in a bathrobe, her hair messy. It's 2 p.m. What do you want, Dave? I hold up the wedding invitation. Congratulations, Richard's daughter is getting married. Her face goes pale. How did you get that? It was delivered to our house. You know, the house where you used to live, before you decided to become a homewrecker. You don't understand the situation. I understand it perfectly. Richard is married. He has a family. And you're just the side piece who was stupid enough to think she was special. Sarah tries to close the door, but I put my foot in the way. Get out of here, Dave. I'll call the police. Call them. I'd love to explain to the nice officers why my wife is living in an apartment that costs 3 times what she makes, while her husband pays all the bills for the house she abandoned. I didn't abandon anything. I left a marriage that was making me miserable. You left a marriage that was inconvenient. There's a difference. I can see past her into the apartment. It's decorated like a magazine spread, all white furniture and abstract art. Nothing like the comfortable lived-in home we built together. Emma needs her car insurance, Sarah says. Emma needs a lot of things, like parents who don't lie to her and destroy her family for a meaningless affair. It's not meaningless. Really? Then why isn't Richard leaving his wife for you? Sarah doesn't answer, which is answer enough. I drive to the high school to pick up Emma. She gets in the truck without a word, her face buried in her phone. How was school? Fine. Want to get dinner somewhere? I'm not hungry. We drive home in silence. Emma disappears into her room as soon as we get there, and I'm left alone with the echo of my footsteps in a house that feels too big and too quiet. That night, I'm lying in bed staring at the ceiling when my phone rings. It's Tommy Ricci, my best friend since high school, and the owner of the MMA gym where I've been working out for the past 5 years. You sound like shit, he says. I feel like shit. Come to the gym. We'll hit the heavy bag until you feel human again. The gym is in an old warehouse downtown, all concrete floors and exposed pipes. It smells like sweat and determination, and it's the only place I've felt normal since my life fell apart. Tommy's waiting for me with boxing gloves and a look that says he's not taking no for an answer. Sarah's been spreading stories around town, he says as I wrap my hands. What kind of stories? The kind where you're the bad guy. Says you've been controlling and jealous. Says she was afraid to leave because she didn't know how you'd react. I hit the heavy bag hard enough to make the chain rattle. Of course she is. People are talking. Some of your customers are asking questions. Another punch, harder this time. Let them ask. Dave, you need to be smart about this. Sarah's got friends, and they're all telling the same story. You're the angry husband who couldn't handle his wife's success. I stop hitting the bag and look at Tommy. He's been my friend for 25 years. He was the best man at my wedding, the first person I called when Emma was born. Do you believe her? I believe you're getting screwed. But that doesn't matter if the whole town thinks you're the villain. He's right. In a city this size, reputation is everything. Word travels fast, and Sarah's version of events is a lot more sympathetic than the truth. What do you think I should do? Tommy grins. I think you should train harder, get stronger, and when you're ready, you should show this town who the real villain is. That weekend, Emma comes home from a party at midnight, stumbling drunk and reeking of beer. Where have you been? Out, she slurs. You're 17 years old. You don't get to come home drunk. Mom says I can make my own decisions now that I'm almost 18. Your mom says a lot of things. That doesn't make them true. Emma laughs, but it's not a happy sound. At least she's not bitter and angry all the time. I have a right to be angry. Do you? Because everyone at school says you're the one who ruined everything. They say Mom was miserable for years and you wouldn't let her go. Who's everyone? Jessica's mom works with Mom. She says you were controlling and jealous and Mom was scared to leave. Jessica's mom, Linda Chen. Sarah's best friend from work, the one who's been cheering on the affair from the sidelines. And you believe that? Emma looks at me with eyes that are too old for her face. I don't know what to believe anymore. All I know is that 6 months ago I had a family, and now I have 2 parents who hate each other, and a bunch of people at school who look at me like I'm damaged goods. She goes upstairs, and I hear her door slam. I sit in my living room and think about the story that's being told around town. The controlling husband, the miserable wife, the brave escape from an unhappy marriage. It's a good story, it's believable, and it's complete bullshit. But Tommy's right. It doesn't matter what's true if nobody believes it. My phone buzzes. Text from an unknown number. Your wife's boss is a piece of shit, but you already knew that. If you want to know what he's really up to, meet me at Murphy's bar tomorrow at 8. I stare at the message for a long time. It could be a trap, or it could be someone with information I need. Either way, I'm going to find out. Murphy's bar is the kind of place where the beer is cheap and the lighting is dim enough to hide whatever sins you're carrying. I arrive at 8 sharp and scan the room for someone who looks like they have information to sell. A woman in the corner booth waves me over. She's maybe 40, with short blonde hair and the kind of sharp features that suggest she doesn't suffer fools gladly. I don't recognize her, but something about her seems familiar. Dave Morrison? That's me. I'm Jennifer Walsh. I used to work at Sarah's agency. Used to work. Past tense. That explains the mysterious text. What do you want to tell me about Richard? Jennifer signals the bartender for another whiskey. Richard Morrison is a predator. He's been sleeping with his employees for years. and the company covers it up because he brings in big clients. How do you know this? Because I was one of them. 3 years ago. He gave me the same lines he's giving your wife. Told me I had potential, that he believed in my career, that his marriage was basically over. I order a beer and settle in for what I suspect is going to be a long conversation. What happened? What always happens. He got bored and moved on to the next pretty face. When I complained to HR, they found a reason to fire me. Suddenly my work wasn't up to standards. Suddenly I was a problem employee. Why are you telling me this? Jennifer's smile is sharp as a knife. Because Richard Morrison destroyed my career, and I want to watch his world burn. And because your wife isn't just a victim, she's an accomplice. What do you mean? Sarah knows about Richard's history. She knows about me and at least 2 other women. She doesn't care because she thinks she's different. She thinks she's the one who's going to change him. The beer tastes like ash in my mouth. How do you know she knows? Because I told her. 6 months ago, I reached out to warn her. I showed her the same text messages, the same promises, the same lies. She called me a bitter ex-employee and said I was jealous of her success. Jennifer pulls out her phone and shows me screenshots of her conversation with Sarah. The messages are brutal. Sarah calling her pathetic, desperate, delusional. Sarah saying that what she has with Richard is real love, not some sordid office affair. Your wife isn't a naive victim, Dave. She's a willing participant who thinks she's smarter than everyone else. I finish my beer in one long swallow. What else do you know? I know Richard's wife is filing for divorce. I know he's been hiding assets for months. And I know he's planning to throw Sarah under the bus when everything comes out. How? He's been documenting their affair. Screenshots of her messages, photos, hotel receipts, everything he needs to paint her as the aggressive pursuer who wouldn't take no for an answer. My hands clench around the empty beer bottle. Why would he do that? Because Richard Morrison is a sociopath who plans 3 moves ahead. When his wife divorces him, he's going to claim Sarah seduced him and threatened his job if he didn't comply. He's going to destroy her reputation to save his own. Jennifer finishes her whiskey and stands up. I thought you should know what you're really dealing with. Your wife isn't just cheating on you. She's about to get played by a master manipulator. She leaves me sitting in that dark bar with the weight of new information. Sarah isn't just unfaithful. She's stupid. She's walking into a trap that's going to destroy her career and her reputation, and she's too arrogant to see it coming. Part of me wants to warn her. 15 years of marriage doesn't disappear overnight, even when it's been poisoned by lies and betrayal. But a bigger part of me wants to watch it happen. I drive home through streets that look different in the darkness. This city has been my home for 20 years, but lately it feels like enemy territory. People I've known for decades are whispering about me, judging me based on Sarah's version of events. Emma is in the kitchen when I get home, making a sandwich. Where were you? Meeting with a client. She looks at me with skeptical eyes. At Murphy's bar? How did you know I was at Murphy's? Jessica's mom saw you there with some woman. She texted Mom. Of course she did. Linda Chen, Sarah's faithful spy, keeping tabs on my movements and reporting back. It was a business meeting. Sure it was. Emma takes her sandwich upstairs, leaving me alone with the implications of what just happened. If Linda saw me with Jennifer, she's already told Sarah, which means Sarah knows someone is talking to me, sharing information about Richard's past. My phone buzzes. Text from Sarah. I know what you're trying to do. It won't work. I text back. I'm not trying to do anything. I'm just learning the truth about the man you threw our marriage away for. Jennifer Walsh is a bitter liar who was fired for incompetence. Jennifer Walsh was fired for complaining about sexual harassment. Believe whatever helps you sleep at night. I stare at the phone, thinking about what Jennifer told me. Richard is planning to destroy Sarah to save himself. She's walking into a buzzsaw, and she's too proud to listen to warnings. But maybe I don't want to warn her anymore. Maybe I want to help push her into that buzzsaw. I call Tommy. I need to ask you something, I say when he answers. Shoot. If someone was planning to destroy your life and you found out about it, would you warn them? Depends. Do I like this person? Let's say you used to love them, but they betrayed you in the worst possible way. Tommy is quiet for a moment. I'd let them walk into the trap. Then I'd make sure they couldn't climb back out. That's what I thought you'd say. You got a plan, Dave? I'm working on it. I hang up and sit in my quiet house, thinking about Richard Morrison and his 3 moves ahead strategy. He's been documenting everything, building a case against Sarah that will destroy her when the time comes. But what if I could get to those documents first? What if I could turn Richard's own strategy against him? What if I could make sure that when Sarah falls, she falls harder than Richard ever planned? I'm not just a plumber anymore. I'm a student of revenge, and I'm about to get my master's degree. The Riverside Community Center is hosting the annual Spring Fling, a neighborhood block party that brings together everyone in a 5-mile radius for overpriced food and awkward small talk. Normally, I'd avoid this kind of event like the plague. But this year, I have a reason to attend. Sarah and Richard are here together, no longer bothering to hide their relationship. They're standing near the dunk tank, laughing at something on Richard's phone, playing the part of the happy couple for anyone willing to watch. What they don't know is that I've spent the last month preparing for this moment. Jennifer Walsh wasn't my only source of information. It turns out Richard Morrison has made a lot of enemies over the years, and they were all eager to share what they knew with the wronged husband who was asking the right questions. I learned about the 3 other affairs, the 2 sexual harassment settlements the company quietly paid out, and the offshore account where Richard has been hiding money from his wife's divorce attorney. More importantly, I learned about the blackmail. Linda Chen, Sarah's best friend and faithful spy, hasn't just been enabling the affair, she's been documenting it. Photos, videos, recorded conversations, financial records showing the money Richard spent on hotel rooms and gifts for Sarah. But Linda isn't gathering evidence to help Richard destroy Sarah. She's gathering it to destroy them both. See, Linda Chen has her own history with Richard Morrison. She was his secretary 5 years ago, before she moved to the marketing department. She was also his victim, used and discarded like all the others. But unlike Jennifer Walsh, Linda didn't complain to HR or seek justice through official channels. Linda Chen played the long game. She befriended Sarah, encouraged the affair, and collected evidence of everything Richard did wrong. She's been planning to expose him at the perfect moment, when it would cause maximum damage to both him and the company. The only problem with Linda's plan is that it would destroy Sarah too. And despite everything Sarah has done to me, despite the lies and betrayal and public humiliation, I don't want her completely destroyed. I want her humbled. I want her to understand the consequences of her choices. But I don't want her obliterated, so I'm going to beat Linda to the punch. The spring fling is in full swing when I make my move. I've set up a small booth near the main stage, advertising D&S Plumbing, we fix all your leaks. It's positioned perfectly to see the dunk tank, where Richard is currently trying to impress a group of neighborhood kids with his throwing arm. Sarah is standing nearby, wearing a sundress that probably cost more than most people's weekly grocery budget. She looks happy, relaxed, completely unaware that her world is about to collapse. Emma is here too, with a group of her friends from school. She's been avoiding me for weeks, still angry about the car insurance and the divorce proceedings and the general mess her parents have made of her senior year. At exactly 3 o'clock, I walk up to the microphone at the main stage. The volunteer coordinator, Mrs. Patterson, the same woman whose sink I fixed 6 months ago, hands me the mic with a smile. Ladies and gentlemen, I say, my voice carrying across the crowd, I'd like to take a moment to talk about community values. Sarah looks up from her conversation with Richard, her face already showing the first signs of alarm. This neighborhood has always been built on trust, honesty, and respect for our neighbors. We look out for each other. We tell the truth. We honor our commitments. The crowd is paying attention now, sensing that this isn't going to be a typical community announcement. Unfortunately, not everyone shares those values. Some people think the rules don't apply to them. Some people think they can lie and cheat and manipulate without consequences. I can see Richard pushing through the crowd toward the stage, but Tommy Ricci and 2 of his gym buddies are blocking his path. Casual but effective. For example, I continue, some people think they can have affairs with their married employees and hide the evidence in offshore bank accounts. The crowd is completely quiet now. Sarah's face is white as paper. Some people think they can destroy other people's careers to cover up their own crimes. Some people think they can manipulate and blackmail and threaten without anyone fighting back. I pull out a manila folder and hold it up for everyone to see. This folder contains bank records, hotel receipts, photographs, and recorded conversations that prove Richard Morrison, the married father and respected businessman, has been systematically abusing his position of power to coerce female employees into sexual relationships. Richard breaks free from Tommy's blockade and rushes toward the stage. But I'm not finished. It also contains evidence that Linda Chen, who works in the same marketing agency, has been blackmailing Mr. Morrison and manipulating my wife Sarah into continuing the affair so she could gather more evidence for her own revenge scheme. Now Linda Chen is pushing through the crowd too, her face twisted with rage. And finally, I say, looking directly at Sarah, it contains proof that my wife Sarah Morrison knew about Richard's history of sexual harassment and chose to continue the affair anyway, because she thought she was special enough to change him. I set the folder down on the stage and stepped back from the microphone. The contents of this folder have been copied and sent to Richard Morrison's wife, the Human Resources Department, at Morrison Marketing, the State Attorney General's office, and the local newspaper. Because in this community, we believe in consequences. The crowd erupts in chaos. Richard is screaming at me from the base of the stage. Linda Chen is trying to grab the folder. Sarah is standing frozen in the middle of it all, finally understanding that she's been played by everyone, including me. Emma appears at my side, her face a mixture of shock and something that might be admiration. "Dad," she says quietly, "that was brutal. Sometimes brutal is what people deserve." Richard has found a way onto the stage and is advancing toward me with his fists clenched. But before he can throw a punch, Tommy Ritchie is there, grabbing Richard's arm and twisting it behind his back. "I wouldn't do that if I were you," Tommy says conversationally. "Assault charges would just be one more thing for the prosecutors to work with." Richard struggles for a moment, then goes limp as he realizes he's surrounded by witnesses and his life is already over. Sarah finally finds her voice. "Dave, how could you do this to me?" I look at my wife, my ex-wife, standing there in her expensive dress, still not understanding that she did this to herself. "I didn't do anything to you, Sarah. I just stopped protecting you from the consequences of your own choices. You destroyed my career. You destroyed my life." "No, I revealed the truth about your career and your life. There's a difference." Linda Chen has given up trying to get the folder and is now backing toward the parking lot, probably calculating how quickly she can disappear before the police start asking questions about blackmail and extortion. Richard is still struggling in Tommy's grip, making threats about lawsuits and revenge that sound pathetic coming from a man whose life just imploded in front of half the neighborhood. And Sarah is crying now, finally understanding that the fairy tale she'd been living was actually a nightmare that she helped create. I step down from the stage and walk toward my truck, leaving behind the wreckage of 3 lives that were built on lies and manipulation and betrayal. Emma follows me. "Where are we going?" she asks. "Home," I say. "We're going home." As we drive away from the community center, I can see the crowd still gathered around the stage in my rearview mirror. By tomorrow, everyone in the city will know the truth about Richard Morrison and Sarah Morrison and Linda Chen. Their reputations are destroyed. Their careers are over. Their futures are uncertain. And for the first time in months, I sleep peacefully.